I often sit in hotels watching people have croissants with jam or cereal and milk, and I think to myself, wow, they're just eating sugar. And here's the biggest problem. When you start your day with sugar, guess what you crave all day? Sugar. The more sugar you have, the more sugar you want. When you wake up in the morning and one of the first things you have is sugar, you wake up that monster. I'm going to show you how to stop being an addictive eater, because addictive eaters aren't born. When you have a tiny baby and you put food in its mouth, it doesn't actually know if you're spooning in something sweet or savory. So babies aren't born addicted to sugar, but we are born rather liking that taste of pappy, mushy food, because our taste receptors here have memories. And sometimes when you eat things like chocolate or creamy pudding or even toast and butter, the taste receptors remember, oh, when I was a baby and somebody picked me up and put creamy, mushy, sugary food in my mouth, it met all my needs. I felt happy. And even when you're 2 and your mum's spooning in banana yogurt or apple puree, it takes a long time to feed small children, and you have to give them a lot of attention. They certainly can't feed themselves. And our brain starts to remember, sugar makes everything better. Creamy, sugary, fatty food makes everything right. It meets all my needs. But of course that isn't true. There is no doubt when you were 2 and you were held and fed, it met your needs. There's no doubt that if you were 3 and you came in and said, I fell over, or my friend won't play with me, and your mum made you a cake or gave you a cake, it met all your needs. But that is because when you were a child, your life was so simple that sugary food or any food gave you instant gratification. We can all remember eating the icing when our mum makes a cake, or being taken out for ice cream, or getting a special cake on our birthday, and how that made us feel great. Because when you're little, your life is simple, and food can give you instant gratification. You fall over, you get a tub of ice cream, you're better. Of course, when you're 35, if your boyfriend dumps you and you eat ice cream, you're not better. And try this. Imagine your very best friend has rung you up and went, my husband's left me, or I've lost my job, or we're going to lose our house, or we've lost our business in the recession, or my kid, 16-year-old kid just got pregnant. You go, don't worry about any of that. Have an ice cream. They would look at you like you were crazy. If you said to a friend who's having a bad day, I know, just going to have a little cupcake with chocolate sprinkles on it, or just have some chocolate, you'll feel okay. And they wouldn't be your friend for very long, because what works for children doesn't work for adults. And so when you are addicted to certain foods, particularly sugar, that's the most addictive one. And then many of the chemicals in junk food are very, very addictive. We know that fast food companies put in more and more chemicals, more and more additives, more and more toxins, because they understand how easy it is to get addicted to chemicals. It's no different to painters who get addicted to sniffing paint fumes, or we know that glue sniffers get high on chemicals. So it isn't unreasonable to expect that your brain starts to get addicted to certain things. And what happens with the brain is when you give it sugar, it releases dopamine. But like all feel-good reactions, you start to need more and more. So an alcoholic will need more alcohol to get that same high. A drug addict will need more drugs to get that high. And when you start to release dopamine in response to eating sugar or very chemical, addictive-laden food, you start to need more and more. And here's the biggest problem I find with sugar addicts. They start the day with sugar. They don't plan to. They don't wake up and think, today I'm going to have chocolate for breakfast, or I'm going to have cake for breakfast, or I'm going to have candy for breakfast. I doubt very much that you do that. However, if you have cereal and milk for breakfast, you might as well have candy. Most cereal is nothing more than cookies. In fact, there are many cereals that have 70, even 80% sugar. I recently took a box of frosted cornflakes and showed them to my class and say, what do you think is the first ingredient? They went, corn. I'm like, no, that's the second ingredient. The first ingredient is sugar. And some breakfast cereals, the first ingredient is sugar. Even supposedly healthy mueslis are full of sugar. And so you need to read the ingredients and recognize how much sugar you're eating. And you need to start to say breakfast cereal is nothing more than cookies. Bread is nothing more than cake. And I often sit in hotels watching people have croissants with jam or cereal and milk, and I think to myself, wow, they're just eating sugar. And here's the biggest problem. When you start your day with sugar, guess what you crave all day? Sugar. The more sugar you have, the more sugar you want. When you wake up in the morning and one of the first things you have is sugar, you wake up that monster. And now you want sugar all the time. And when you wake up and don't have sugar, the longer you cannot have sugar, the easier it is. You have to be very careful reading ingredients because food companies aren't stupid. They now do something very clever. Instead of saying sugar is the biggest ingredient, they say this product contains evaporated cane juice, it contains lactose, maltose, dextrose, fructose. And if they list all the sugars separately, you never quite understand how much sugar is in there. First of all, you need to educate yourself. Dextrose is sugar, maltose is sugar, fructose is sugar. Anything that ends in O's is sugar. Evaporated cane juice is sugar. Maltodextrin is sugar. And it isn't that you can never eat sugar, but what you want to do is think, well, I'm going to save sugar. Maybe I will have a cookie occasionally. Maybe I'll have some chocolate sometimes, but you don't want to have sugar for breakfast. Because I promise you, if you start your day with sugar, you're going to want sugar all the time. When we were tribes people, what we needed to do to survive was to binge on sugar and store fat. So if we came across some mangoes or bananas, we didn't think, I'll just have half. We ate a lot of mangoes and bananas because nature wants us to binge on sugar and store fat because it doesn't know when we're coming across those mangoes or bananas again. But now, of course, we get access to sugar all the time and it's put in so many foods. And if you go to a coffee shop and have a latte and a muffin, you can have eaten incredibly 25 teaspoons of sugar, which is extraordinary. You shouldn't be having that amount in a day. And food companies put sugar in everything. So here's your cure. The first cure is for you to stop eating sugar first thing in the morning. Don't have anything sweet. Have eggs, have omelets, have scrambled eggs, have bacon if you want to, have plain yogurt and deliberately put in nuts and seeds and make it salty rather than sweet. Don't make that classic mistake of saying, well, I'm having oats and they're really healthy. I'm adding bananas and raisins and honey. You're just adding sugar and more sugar and more sugar. By all means, have oats, but put in some nuts and seeds. Try to make everything savory rather than sweet. I often still want to eat sweet things, but I don't. I was somewhere recently and I wanted a little something and I was in a store and they had lots of sugar and it looked very nice, but I bought some olives. Interesting enough, salt will stop a sugar craving. So if you really crave sugar, eat something salty, not salty potato chips, because they too have a lot of sugar in them. Here's one of my favorite things to stop you craving sugar. This is called Gymnema sylvestre. Its Indian name is sugar destroyer because what it does is it safely interferes with your body's ability to love sugar. So if you love sugar, if you crave sugar, and I used to be someone who craved sugar, I would wake up and halfway through the day I'd want sugar and I'd get sugar from a vending machine and then I'd find I just wanted more sugar. And I would have sugary drinks and I thought I was being really healthy when I switched to dried fruit and other snacks, but I really wasn't. And this is a wonderful thing because you don't need to take it for very long for it to stop your body physically craving sugar. Here's something else. It's called L-glutamine. That's L-glutamine. If you break a 500 mg capsule of L-glutamine, some people call it glutamine, onto your tongue, it can stop a sugar craving in 30 seconds, which is really good news. So if you're addicted to sugar, and many, many people are, you have to take action. Use Gymnema sylvestre to stop your body wanting sugar. Break L-glutamine onto your tongue because it can stop a sugar craving in 30 seconds. Of course, you have to be smart. You need to have some L-glutamine in your purse, in your bag, in your wallet, because If you're out or on a train, you think, I really want some sugar, and there's a vending machine right there. Or you're on an aeroplane, you think, I really want sugar now. You need to have that L-glutamine with you. So most sugar cravings are absolutely real. They are a physical craving. You've given your body so much sugar. You're making dopamine. You've become addicted to that hit of dopamine. You now need more sugar to make more dopamine. But there's also what I call an emotional addiction. It's like, oh, it's Christmas, I need chocolate. I'm on holiday, I need ice cream. I'm having a bad afternoon with my parents or my husband or my friends, and now I need sugar. Or I'm at a game, or I'm somewhere where I've always had sugar. And then you get what I call that mental association. The body has linked one activity to another. And there's something else to look at too, supplements. If you crave sugar, you are often very, very low in zinc. If you crave sugar, you're very low in magnesium. Chocolate is full of magnesium. So are apples. And actually the things I used to crave the most were chocolate and apples. Apples are good, chocolate's not good. And then I started to take magnesium. In fact, I recommend you take a magnesium chromium supplement combined, because that is really good at stopping you craving sugar. But here's something else. Most supplements are what's called fat soluble. Most vitamins are fat soluble. That means that you can't and you won't absorb vitamins without fat. So if you wake up in the morning and you have no breakfast or a no fat breakfast, just a little bit of fruit, and you take your supplements, they won't work. So there's many, many, many things you can do, but I want you to do these things first. And then I want you to do something else. You see, I'm going to tell you two case histories. My first case history is a girl called Susie, and Susie had a mother who was a health nut and never allowed her to have sugar. And it was, you can't have sugar, we don't have sugar, we don't eat sugar. But because all her friends had sugar, guess what she wanted? And when all her friends would have cakes and biscuits and she wasn't given that, her mind would go, when I grow up, I'm going to eat loads of sugar. When I get older, no one is going to stop me having sugar. And she found her mother's fanatical diet boring and restrictive and began to see sugar as intense pleasure. And as an adult, she would binge on sugar. She just couldn't stop herself because she still had the mindset she had at 4. At 4, her mother said, no, we don't have sugar. It's not allowed. We don't eat it. But she didn't factor in that that little girl really wanted it. When you never, ever, ever give your children sugar, that can have effects that are damaging. Of course, when you give your children sugar all the time, that's very damaging because they too become addicted to it. And I would give my little girl sugar, but I never called it a treat. If we went to a party, I didn't go, oh my God, that cake is a treat, or look at all that chocolate, it's a treat. And sometimes I'd give her dried mangoes, and sometimes I'd give her hummus, and sometimes she had sugar, but we didn't talk about it as a treat. You being good, here's chocolate. Oh, let's have something naughty. Because what happened with Susie is she began to see sugar as forbidden, the forbidden thing that would make her happy. And of course, as an adult, in fact, as soon as she had her own money, she started to binge on sugar. And I had to train her brain to think differently. Instead of walking past a sweet shop and going, oh, look at all that yummy, delicious, beautiful chocolate, that will make me happy. And I never got it when I was a kid, so I deserve to have it now. She had to say, it does look good, but you know what? I'm 35. I can eat this every day for the next 60 years. And when I'm 95, maybe I will come in here and eat some chocolate. But right now, I'm choosing to be healthy. I'm choosing to be slender. And saying to herself, chocolate is available to me. No one is saying no. I can have it whenever I want. You see, what happens when someone like Susie goes on a diet is they pick up the diet sheet, and the diet sheet says something like, okay, we have red, green, and amber. The red is all the banned food, and all the banned food is chocolate and cookies and potato chips. And it says you can't have those, but if you want one, have an apple. Someone like Susie, when the diet sheet says you cannot have sugar, they want sugar. But you got to brainwash yourself by saying it's just sugar, it's just fat, it's just additives. It will not make me better. It will set off a craving like an addict that I am choosing not to have in my life. So I'm choosing to say no to sugar. I'm choosing to feel great about it, and I'm choosing to do it all the time. Right now, no cake in the world is going to make you feel as good as you feel looking hot on the beach, looking great in your clothes, looking great out of your clothes. And even if you don't care about that, because it is somewhat superficial, no sugar in the world can even come close to the feeling you feel when you feel healthy, when you wake up and your moods are constant because you don't have a rising and a crashing of dopamine. No sugar in the world can make you feel as good as you feel when your body's healthy. So take the right things, eat the right things, say the right things, take the right supplements. Remember to say, I'm choosing not to eat this, and I'm choosing to feel great about it. Check out my next video here. Anyone notice that as that day comes around, they're sick? Because here's how the mind works. You say, oh my God, I volunteered to chair that meeting. I must have been out of my mind. I'd die if I've got to go on stage. I don't want to do that. And your brain's like, leave that with me. Now next Wednesday.